Your AI dreams are nowhere near coming true. So let's see what he has to say. Why does this author have his opinion? It still can't even park your car correctly, much less cure cancer or take over the world. So he goes, artificial intelligence is not very intelligent. We've been conditioned to expect a lot from AI. According to science fiction, Skynet would become self-aware 97. Androids should have been, I don't know what this word is, soliloquizing about attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion 2 years ago. Okay, but here we are in the real world, 2021. AI struggles to not crash into parked police cars. I think they're making reference to, what's his name? Teslas. Anyway, AI is even failing at even most mundane tasks we ask of it. I'll qualify this. This guy writes, Parmi Olsen. Forget replacing humanity or colonizing space. AI can't even filter Nazis from your Nana's Facebook feed or screen patients for tumors. A big problem in the industry's preoccupation with big shiny models and neglect the quality of the data that gets cranked into them. I'll get more on that in a second. Garbage in, garbage out is a thing humans have been saying for a long time, and it's still true. Speaking of Facebook, this weekend the country met AI expert and whistleblower Frances Hogan, we can also discuss that, who has revealed in damning detail just how badly that company's algorithms fail to protect users, protect health and democracy. Anyway, between her and every Facebook product going offline at once, briefly improving the collective mood of humanity, Mark Zuckerberg lost $7 billion in a few hours. As Parmi Olsen writes in a second column, the answer here is not more AI, but more human intervention. Of course, humans are expensive. What with their pesky demands for food, shelter, and dental cleaning every 6 months. Then again, AI is expensive too, along with garbage. Humans keep throwing money into these AI models, and now more than ever. Getting hotter. Global venture capital in AI, startups with AI in their names. So you see it's been rising quite a bit, especially in the last few years. Boom, 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 boom. See, I always like looking at, it's always good to look at financial markets, look at where companies are investing their money. That will give you more of an indicator as to where things are going than what nerdlings might say on the interwebs. You know, because at the end of the day, we're writing all this code to make money. So without more care, so many of these investments will be lost in time, like tears in rain, time to read the whole thing. But, okay, so that's it. Then he goes into other things like stagflation, stuff like that. Uncle Stef likes reading about, but what's all that noise?
Increasingly, companies are grounding their decisions.
Oh, no.
All
right, there. I hate when websites do that. All right, so let me make a few comments on that. Yeah, something I've mentioned previously. A good friend of mine is doing his PhD in AI. So he's an AI expert on the research end of things. And he told me over the summer that a lot of the AI data that's being reported in the research papers is fudged data. They're exaggerating to a great degree the effectiveness of their algorithms. And so this author in the Bloomberg Post is citing something very obvious. And what's obvious is that just being able to filter posts on Facebook, the AI algorithms are having tremendous difficulty with that. As he also points out, as I pointed out, AI has trouble driving a car. AI has trouble parking a car. So when it comes to very advanced strategic and logical thinking that is required to write apps, AI is so far from that. It's, first they got to be able to park a car and maybe be able to filter text before you start being concerned about about AI actually being able to write complex apps. So, I thought it was an interesting piece. I thought that Facebook example is a clean example, a very clear example of where AI really stands. And so if you've ever been wondering whether AI is going to replace programmers anytime soon, don't count on it. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of application for AI, specifically pattern recognition, whether it be images, whether it be, I don't know, if whatever, x-rays, that kind of things, simple stuff. But as soon as you start throwing in more variables or too many variables, the whole thing falls apart. So this camera uses an AI to be able to do the focus. You see, I'm in focus, out of focus. See, the camera uses AI. See, it knows to not focus on the hand. It knows that I want bokeh goodness on the hand. So it's able to capture my face. But even then, it's not perfect. Anyhow, so there you go. I wouldn't be so concerned about AI taking over the world. It's a little hyped. Doesn't mean there's no future in it. There's a tremendous future in it. It's just that it is, we're still early days in that stuff, okay? All right, let me answer a few questions. Hey, Uncle Stef, how are you doing? I'm learning PHP, wondering how much code is typically required for freelance WordPress developers. Good question. Depends on the type of WordPress work you're going to do. Some WordPress, if you're going to start building a lot of themes, writing plugins, there'll be a lot of coding. If you're just installing and configuring, not much coding at all. So that is up to you. That's the great thing about freelancing. Once you get into the market and you establish yourself, build some reputation, build some skills, you'll be able to decide what specific type of freelancing you want to do. Whether you want to be code-centric or install and configure-centric, that's up to you. And, well, the market plays a role as well, of course, but you can maneuver around that, you know? Do you see web dev freelance opportunities being more in your local market, or are there a lot of options working remotely? I think both are possible. It just depends on how you position yourself. It also depends on the type of work that you do. Yeah, both are possible. Both are possible. There's no question about that. All right. Fleshu says, I hope you're all well. I am, thanks. I hope everything is good with you. I started your web development course. I love your teaching style. Next step would be to start creating pages. What to do next? Yeah, you do the web development course. I do give, you should have it where I talk about the two different methods in which you can use the Studioweb platform to learn. So do one or two of the methods. One way is just to go through the whole thing, do all the hundreds of lessons, do all the quizzing and the code challenges, and then go back and write the code and start building the pages along with me. That's up to you. AI is so overhyped, humans are still far superior at the moment. Yeah, exactly. That's the point. AI is extremely overhyped. It still has its purpose, but it's kind of niche right now, and certainly cannot replace programmers. Like, when it could park a car consistently and not smash into police cars, then maybe that's the first step, It's pretty simple stuff. Would you say the web development industry is slowly dying, or is it slowly growing? I say it's growing. I don't say it is growing. Look at the data. The reason why I am asking this question is because there are many tools out there where people can build a website. Yeah, but if you know anything about website design and development, it's like I suppose I could get a saw and a hammer and some nails, and I could build a table. Now, because I'm not a carpenter and a furniture maker, the table I would build is not going to be very good looking, that's for sure. So just because I can build a crap table doesn't mean that there's going to be no more tables to be made by professionals. Same thing with web design and development. You have to look at all these tools, would be WordPress or Wix or whatever, Shopify, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're just tools that you can use. So I wouldn't say you're in trouble. Hey, it's Uncle Stef. I really appreciate your experience and advice. I wish you the best. I appreciate that. Well, thanks, Angel, for coming on the stream. Hey, Mr. Daniel, comment ça va? Salut, Stef. Infrastructure guy here, starting to get into C# and .NET. Very cool. Good stuff. What do you think about AI or low code, no code will affect more our jobs as developers? No, I think low code and no code will be just tools that you'll implement, maybe to prototype something rough and dirty. I was actually talking to a low code company, and they're showing me what they're doing. It's pretty advanced stuff. So they have a bunch of widgets, and you can throw everything together and get something together, but it still is open enough so you can go in there and customize the code. You know, VB6 was very much like a low code type of thing back in the day, Microsoft VB6. You just drag, drop, you can build apps super quick, but they were still super in high demand, these guys and girls. So it just changes, it shifts the work, that's all. Yeah. Okay, so how much time until AI rules the world? A long time from now. John Baker. I just now turned 16. Hey, happy birthday. Good age, by the way. And I built web apps like exercise tracker and a NIM streamer, etc. Should and how can I start making money, or should I, and how can I learn more? Check out on my YouTube channel. You'll find videos where I talk the 7 steps to becoming a freelancer, the 7 steps to getting a job. Look at those steps. I think freelance is something you can look into. Hey, Sergeant, how are you, man? Good to see you. Yo, Stef, what exactly is working with data structures? A data structure is just a way of holding information. It's a structure of data. Data is just a fancy word for information. It's a structure. There's many different types of data structures out there. And you have different types of data structures because depending on the type of data and depending how you need to access that data, you would have a different data structures, different collection types, for example. So let's say you want to keep track of a bunch of name-valued pairs. You know, I don't know, like a shopping cart or something. Then you might use one type of array for that. In JavaScript called array. In Python, I think it's called hashes. It's been a while. So when you're working with data structures, you're just manipulating the data that is held in these data structures in a very particular way. Very high level. If you do my Python course, you learn about that quite a bit. I left my agency job to freelance and just recently sold 3 websites. Congrats. Power. Good stuff. Actually, sorry. There we go. All old connections that saw I went independent. Freelancing is much more about connections as it is skills. Yeah, pretty much. You need the skills to be able to sell. But if you have the contacts, so you can generate the business, that's even better. All right. Winston. Hey, Stef, always like your 116-year-old pragmatic programmer perspective. Have you tried Vim? A long time ago. I've been using it for a while. I started as a hobby, but now I can go back to VS Code. Haha. And then it's like code editors are personal choice, like what type of car you drive, so or not. So that's cool. If you like Vim, good. Yeah, I can see the appeal of Vim. Very clean, simple. Are portfolios a waste of time for people looking for entry position? No. Portfolios are number one. Portfolios are most important. Most important. Yeah. How are we doing here? I wish you taught in my school. Our teacher taught us Scratch and to sell it to us. Told us we could create the next World Warcraft on a true story. There you go. Yeah. It's been a while. If you got invited to teach free CoCamp, what topic would you propose? I would talk what I talk about on my YouTubes now, higher level architecture. Because when you own a business, you have to decide whether you're going to be in the code or in the management. You can't do both. I've tried doing both. You can only do both for a very short time. So I only deal in high-level discussions now in architectures. Once in a while, I'll be pulled into something where I have to discuss a solution for a problem. But I literally I have forgotten more than I currently remember. But that's okay, because the most important thing is the subject, is the concepts rather. Which is better to learn first for freelancing, MySQL or PDO? Doesn't matter. Use whatever one you prefer. Greetings from Brazil. Thank you for the stream, man. No problem. Hey, how are you, Kevin? Hope everything is well. Hi, Steve. My question is, what is the difference between software developers and programmers? I've talked about that before. There is a difference, but it's really a distinction without much of a difference. A programmer can be a developer, but a programmer writes code, but you could be just writing server automation code, whereas a developer is actually building an app from scratch. They're building a solution, whereas a programmer could be just debugging stuff, and but so can developers. It's really not that important, There once was a time, for example, there's a distinction between a scripting language and a proper programming language. Those lines have blurred as well, So I wouldn't be too concerned about that, What do people mean by knowing a language well? Feels like you can learn about any language in 2 weeks, say maybe things like Haskell and whatnots. Is it about knowing the orbiting tools? I think it's about knowing the ecosystem and some of the some of the gotchas about the language, perhaps. Understanding where the language is quirky, where the language is strong, where it's weak, and knowing the orbiting tools, as you would describe it. Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. What is the difference between you guys? If you were given a chance to go back in the past, what would you change or improve? It's hard to say, because all my choices kind of led me to where I am today, which is pretty comfortable. I probably would have kept my dating site going. I would have had to get past the whole swinger thing. I should have followed through on my Bitcoin purchase when they were 4 cents and 5 cents a piece. I'd be rich Uncle Billionaire Stef today. But but beyond that, listen, you can go back and you can look at all kinds of situations where you made mistakes and you go, ugh. But who knows where that would have taken you? If you would have dated this girl instead of that girl, if you would have taken that job or done that contract, you know what I mean? It's hard to say. You can't live in the past, though. You shouldn't dwell in the past, because if you do, it's a total waste of time, because you can't really do anything about it anyway. What are your thoughts about Google AI and AI in general? And also, do you have videos related to data analytics? By the way, I love your channel. Nothing related to data analytics. I'm not a data analytics guy. I think Google, is probably got, in terms of broad-based AI, they're probably the best at it right now. I think AI it's got a lot of application, but I think it's been hyped a little bit too much. That's the main point, I think, of this the stream. AI is a little bit hyped. Howdy, hologram, how are you? What is your view on crypto? My view is that I've been wrong about crypto in the past. If you would have told me Bitcoin would reach over 60,000 USD a coin, I would have said no chance of that. And if I would have guessed that, I would have followed through on my Bitcoin purchase. But I think if you go with the major coins, history tells us it's probably a pretty good place to be. But I'm not giving you any investing advice, because conceptually, I think Bitcoin is kind of but the market is proving me wrong in that regard. So, yeah. Are web developers who also have software UX design skills seen as being more valuable to an agency than similarly skilled web developer, or do companies prefer keeping those tasks apart? No, if you have a broad range of skills like that, it will make you more valuable. There's no question about it. Hey, KC Collective. How have you been? I've been great. I'm planning my trip down to the U.S. Actually, I'm going to ask you guys a question about this. I want to see what your opinion is. Really enjoying the uploads lately. I appreciate that. Thanks. CC degree or self-taught developer, which is better? Listen, if you're going into debt, don't go to college. If you can get it for free, it can't hurt. But you can get there very quickly in a lot less time if you just train under a mentoring program. Yes, it's not just my opinion. Google said the same thing as well recently. What are your thoughts on Oracle Apex as a development tool? I haven't used it, so I have no thoughts. Framework and app hosting platform. I would imagine anything Oracle puts out is for enterprise. So I would look at that only if there's an enterprise. You're going to go work for massive corporations. That would be my guess, because Oracle is an enterprise-oriented business. But I haven't looked at it, so I have no personal opinion. Stefan, while this might be a silly question, since HTML is known for not error reporting, would it be possible to use XHTML to develop apps? I learned HTML5, but I'm curious. Well, XHTML won't report errors either. I guess you can run it through the W3C code validator. We used to do all that, but I would not use XHTML. It is not supported by, I guess IE. Nobody uses IE anymore. No, just use HTML5. It's superior tech. Just use a good IDE to verify that all your tags are properly closed and so forth. I've been thinking about getting to C#. What's with news about Maui lately? I think it's a strong choice for the upcoming years. What do you think? Is Java making major advancements similar to .NET? I don't know. I haven't been looking at those two technologies, so I don't have an opinion. Both are well positioned. Both are well positioned. You'd be fine in either or. Those dating sites got me questioning myself. Yeah, well, dating sites, I was hearing, I forget what it was, but dating sites have been, I think, altering people's behaviors, especially women, because they, an average woman will get a huge number of men throwing themselves at them. And it messes with the psychology. I saw a stat suggesting, I think only like maybe 40% of people are on dating sites. I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't done any studies on that. And my advice to you guys, and I've been on dating sites, on them, I have profiles, and I meet women. But it's like, you're much better off like joining a yoga studio or going to a tennis, join a gym and play tennis or something. Go to places and get into sports or hobbies that you like, where there might be women, and this is where you can meet people in person. The big problem I find with dating is that it's so hard. Besides matching up and all this stuff, it's such an encumbering process to actually figure out if you know somebody or if you're gonna like somebody. It's such a slow process. Whereas in schools or at a yoga studio or at a tennis club or something, you bump into them a few times a week, you'll get to know right away, and she'll get to know or he'll get to know right away whether or not there's anything going on there. That's my advice. Hey Stan, what do you think about Python? I think Python's very cool. It's either the top language or the number 2 language used in the world. Hey, Stef, what's the best way to find suitable, skilled co-founders for a startup? What you want to do is you want to find, number one, people who have complementary skills. So if you were a good back-end designer, you don't want to find another back-end designer. You want to find a front-end designer. Or if you're good with code and building apps, maybe you want to find somebody who's good with marketing and business sense. Take your time when choosing business partners. It's like and co-founders. It's like you're getting married. And so you got to be very careful, and you got to take your time with that whole process. I've been coding for 10 years now, .NET, SQL, VBA, well, but never as a developer job title. Once I learned web development, should I apply for intermediate roles or should I go for junior roles? See what you can get. Learn web development, build some simple web apps, and then go in there with your resume and see what they have to say. You may have to do junior developer for a short period of time because it's a new space. But since you've been coding in .NET and VBA, I think I might be able to get in at intermediate level pretty quickly. Gotta go. Have a good one. Gotta go. Have a good evening, everyone. All right, Michael. Have a good evening. Get to bed. Chris, how does one find purpose and meaning as a programmer developer and not just a paycheck? It's a good question. You have to do what you like to do. You have to choose a type of programming that appeals to you. That's my advice. All right, so we're doing 29 minutes. Okay, so let me... I want to see what you guys think. You got 80 to 77 people. All right. So I am traveling down to the U.S. sometime this winter. And my thinking, I was supposed to do it last year, but COVID, couldn't go. So I'm planning on going down for a few months. I'm trying to decide whether I should do a road trip, state to state, heading down south, Florida, maybe Texas, or just fly down and hang around Florida. I'm going to jump around the state, check out different, Boca Raton, North Miami, maybe the Keys, Tampa, etc. So I was wondering, would a coder in a car vlog code trip be an interesting series for you guys? Or it doesn't really matter, if I do it, if I'm looking at Airbnbs down there, and I'm looking at hotels as well. And I actually bought a portable camera to do that trip and to do the show. Uncle Stef in Miami. So let me know what your thoughts on that idea. Leave me a comment below right now. See what your thoughts are. How's it going, Uncle Stef? About to start my second project today. Hey, cool. Good stuff. I was thinking about learning Ruby. What are the medical preparations I will need to take to consume the amount of alcohol to learn Ruby? Here we go. I met my wife on OkCupid. I also met a girl who took me to an adult star party. You need to be upfront with what you want with dating sites alongside having worked on the ugly elements about yourself. Yeah, that's good advice. Let's give Stefan some likes for the algorithm. Quadruple guns. That's right. Let's just say my feet are flexible. Yeah, cool. Yeah, appreciate that. Come to Clearwater Beach. I might. I plan on going to Florida to actually look around. I'm thinking of getting a place down there. I have some friends who live down there, and so they suggested I spend 2 weeks here and 2 weeks there and 2 weeks there and 2 weeks here. So that's what I'm thinking of doing. And so I might meet some people. If you guys are in Florida, go down, meet for a coffee or maybe for some stone crab or something. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. All right. Okay, that's cool. That's cool, Paul. I might be in Texas. I have some places in the Alamo there. What's it? I forget all of a sudden. Miami, the land of the free. You're welcome to visit any time. I appreciate that, Sergeant. That's cool. Yeah. Up here in Quebec. I've been living in Quebec most of my life, in and around Quebec, mostly Montreal. I like the city. If you haven't been to Montreal, Americans have told me Montreal kind of reminds them of a cross between New York's Manhattan, New Orleans, and San Francisco. So, YouTube has been sending me a bunch of live feeds. Say hello. Hello. Road trips. You get to walk with the real and learn too from the different places. Yeah, I love road trips. I've done road trips down to Chicago, down to Florida. I used to go to Connecticut a lot, New York City. I love road trips. Yeah, 100% road trip. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm thinking about that. I'll just go from one town to the next, one state to the next. Of course, I'll be heading south because I want to avoid the winter. And I figure I just, do different vlogs and live streams in different cities and stuff. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. All right. There you go. Any other questions before I let you guys go? As an American, I never understand why Canadians are interested about here. Too many similarities, in my opinion. Yes and no. Americans we're very similar, Canadians and Americans, no question, but are also very different in many respects. I found when I did my trips, I found each state in the U.S. was almost like a little mini country, very different personality types, and so it's very fun for me anyway. I just like road trips too. So, all right. I think, oh my God, I got through most of the questions. All right, guys, so that's it. So unless there are any more questions, in summary, AI is here, but it's not taking over development anytime soon. Florida is just a touch warmer than Canada. Oh, yeah. Travel vlogs are always good. Could mix it up a little and turn it into a bit of an adventure along the way, taking roads that are off the beaten track. Always good way to see interesting stuff. Yeah. The issue that with AI now for junior devs, the needing for programmer changed. I'm not sure. That's what you mean. Oh, you're saying that for junior devs, they have to learn new types of development? No. Look at the jobs out there. You see there's a huge amount of jobs. Most of them, the vast majority, are with technologies that have been around for 20 years. That's something I talk about. I try to explain to people. See, on the YouTubes, people will convince you all these cutting edge and bleeding edge technologies are all that people are using. But when you actually get into the workforce, don't take my word for it. Go search. You'll see that a lot of the jobs are technologies that have been around for a long, long time. And in fact, as I've said in other videos, you look at any particular list on the top 10 most used programming languages, they're typically 20 and 30 and 40-year-old languages. Python is usually number 1 or 2. That's 35 years old. JavaScript is number 1 or 2. That's 30 years old almost. Java, same thing. C#, 20 years old, over 20 years old. SQL is not programming, but that's 35, 40 years old. VB, whatever, 30 years old, 25 years old. I can go on. It's C, C++, C#. There are all these old languages, and the paradigms have not changed terribly much in the last 15 years. That's just the facts. In your opinion, macOS or Windows for front-end development, why? I think they're both good. They're both strong. Depends on whether you prefer macOS or Windows. I've used both extensively, and I generally prefer Macs now because I find that the operating system is more stable. Doesn't ask me to update every 2 seconds, and with the new M1 architectures, which are, I think, years ahead of anything else out there, that's pretty compelling. Football, soccer, baseball. Which other sports are you interested in besides martial arts? For me, it was boxing. MMA, boxing, traditional martial arts. I used to like canoe camping. I used to like fishing a lot. My father was a guide up in Canada back in the early days. We'd go on trips up north, 2 weeks into the woods with our food on our backs. Very Canadian thing to do. Yeah. I'm in Florida, and the weather is about to be really nice in the next few months. Yeah, I know. I think Either would be a good option, but road trips might be harder for content due to internet reception. Yes, Casey, that is one of my major concerns, actually, was the internet connectivity. Are you a Rush fan? Yeah, I love Rush. Tom Sawyer, man. Hello, Stefan from Bosnia. How are you doing? I'm doing good. Thanks for joining the stream. And, hey, Stefan, is it useful to be very prolific in Vim or VIML? Only if you need it. Only if you need it. What you'll learn once you get into software development professionally, the language or the framework that you use is just a tool that you use at that time. And you may find yourself it's likely you'll be finding yourself jumping from technology A to B to C to D, So in the first few years, you might be using Vim and VIML, VIML. I've never used that, and then you might find yourself doing .NET, and a few years later, you might find yourself doing C#, on Unity, or you might find yourself doing Java. Who knows, right? All right, guys, 40 minutes. It's a good stream. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. If you're watching this video in the replay, let me know what you think about road trip or just do streams and vlogs from Florida and maybe Texas. I don't know. I haven't looked into it. I don't think so. I think you're pretty safe no matter what, especially in terms of the development side of things. All right, dudes. Thanks for joining the stream. We'll talk soon.